Well, it's 10 o'clock and got one viewer, one listener. Well, for those who are not watching it now but will watch it later, welcome once again to the International Forthright Timeline Live Hangout. The subject tonight is trawling and weaponisation, which I think you'll find interesting. First, a couple of preliminary matters. As usual, I was in Trafalgar Square New Year's Eve. Spent some time walking around, a lot more time walking around than I should have done. Got home, just flopped into bed at 2:45, and I had a really terrible night. As well as my back problem, I've got a neck problem. I've always had problems with my neck. Ranged it in October 1988, and I had a really terrible night. It was night. I mean, it's an all day. I had to crash out most of the day. I've recovered, but not entirely. Really bad. And Wednesday this week, Sabine McNeill was given a 9-year sentence at Southwark Crown Court, something which I was astonished it was so. I was trying to get something, but as I've said many times before, Sabine is a woman who has a stratospheric IQ and not a nanogram of common sense. So I will endeavour to cover her case and the Hoaxted, it was called Hoaxted, the Hampstead satanic abuse hoax, which is absolutely ridiculous, but not for the people involved in it. I will cover that some not too distant in the future when I deal with the grand conspiracy. But I say it's trawling and weaponisation. I'm going to become, well, I mean, not just false rape allegations, but false allegations of sexual assault, indecent assault, sexual harassment, basically. Sexual harassment was all but unknown until I think the first case was about 1968 or something. Throughout the 1970s, it started in the United States, as you might probably know. It really was fairly low key in the 1970s, but it was only with the Clarence Thomas case that it really exploded, and they brought in this Anita Hill, this lying, mendacious hag to try to scupper his nomination to the Supreme Court, and they did something much worse with Kavanagh last year. I'll discuss that shortly. And trawling. Now, trawling for victims and weaponisation, they go together, but they don't always go together. You can have trawls and you can have weaponisation. Trawls can be legitimate, and but weaponisation is never legitimate. Right. So what do I mean by trawl? Well, there are two types of trawls. There's the police trawl and the media trawl. Let's imagine that the police catch a burglar bang to rights, right? And there's been somebody in the county has been burgling houses, and he has a unique modus operandi. say he raids the refrigerator, or he takes a bottle of milk from the fridge, drinks from it, and leaves it in the sink. Now, they catch this guy bang to rights. They go through their database. They find 15 or 16 such such burglaries. So they can charge him with all those. Now, very often when the police arrest someone, if the guy is pleading guilty, if he puts his hands up to it, if he says he's going to plead guilty, if he admits it, they'll say to him, "Is there anything else you want to tell us about?" This is called taken into consideration. You might ask, well, why should a man who's been arrested for, say, credit card fraud confess to other credit card frauds and maybe stealing a car? Well, there's a very good reason. By making a clean breast of it, he literally makes a clean breast of it. He says, "I did this, that. I'm very sorry, blah, blah, blah." And when he's sentenced, he'll probably get a bit more, but he'll get credit for being honest, if you like. If he doesn't, though, and the police find other evidence that he's maybe stolen another credit card, when he's released from prison, they'll be waiting for him. This is called a gate arrest. They'll take him back to court. They'll charge him entirely anew. He might get a heavier sentence this time because the general sentences get heavier and longer as the years go by and the convictions pile up. I'll give you an example of a valid trawl, a very valid one. If you haven't heard of him, Dr. Harold Shipman was, and still is, and hopefully will remain forever, Britain's worst serial killer. This began with when he was arrested. What happened? One of his patients died, Mrs. Grundy, who was 81 years young. And her will was, in her will, she left everything to her beloved doctor. Unfortunately for Shipman, Mrs. Grundy's daughter was a solicitor. And she said, like, "What the hell is this, you know?" My mum never told me about this. Shipman was arrested initially on suspicion of forging Mrs. Grundy's will. Then he was charged with her murder, and he was charged with, I think, another 4 murders. And eventually, he stood trial for 15 murders, was convicted of all of them. I mean, they dug up the graveyard, everything. It's believed, it's estimated he murdered around 215 people, perhaps as many as 250. Absolutely incredible. And another tool. Some of you may be aware of the Holtzclaw case. Daniel Holtzclaw was a police officer in Oklahoma City. One night he stopped a woman driving her own car, Janie Liggins, who was I think 55 years old at the time. He was a bit younger than me. He was on his way home and presumably parked the car in front of his house. And the police officers stopped motorists on the way home. And according to Liggins, he sat in the back seat of his car, unzipped his fly and said, "Suck this," or words to that effect. So he let her go, and she was quite terrified. She went immediately, almost immediately, to the police station. Was greeted with a certain amount of skepticism, as you might imagine. But they pulled in Holtzclaw. Because of her age, because she was a woman of good character, driving her own car. She was a credible accuser They went through every woman with whom he'd interacted, overwhelmingly young women. Because Liggins was black and all the women who accused him of black, he had the usual suspects try to make a race issue out of this thing, and there was a big protest. The police deliberately kept the investigation low key because they no doubt they foresaw what would happen, and indeed this did happen. A lot of false accusers came forward. Excuse me. One of those, Shanice Barksdale, you'll find on the timeline. Holtzlaw was charged with 36 counts of varying crimes, was convicted of 18, and received a 263-year sentence. I say that brought forward a number of accusers, false accusers. Some people, including the misguided Michelle Malkin, insist this guy is totally innocent. No, go over it. But what can happen with police trawls is, imagine this. This is a hypothetical case. I went to boarding school. I was at boarding school in the 1960s, and that's the only time I had six of the best. I had six of the best there, and I had one stroke of both occasions was a table tennis fan. One stroke as a senior when I was at my local secondary modern. But I had six of the best from Mr. Roberts, who was the mathematics teacher. It did me a world of good. I'll skip the details here. Mr. Roberts would also, on your birthday, take you out and he'd buy you something, buy a present. And I was there for one birthday. I spent about 18 months there, I think. I was there for one birthday and he bought me a dinky toy. There was also a bloke I saw, Dr. Whitehead. I can't remember why I saw him. It wasn't a psychiatrist. I wasn't sent to boarding school for psychiatric reasons. I was a sickly kid. I had a slow lung and I vomited as well. And I was also born with a slight heart murmur. And they sent me down to Seaford to, the thyroid, iodine in the sea air gets your thyroid working. There was a guy named Dr. Whitehead. As far as I remember him, he looked a bit like Sigmund Freud. But he gave me an ad hoc driving lesson once or twice. I don't think I sat on his lap. But now imagine that. I want to imagine something. Imagine this. Imagine a couple of years ago, a teacher at that school, East Quinton. Imagine he was arrested for interfering with underage boys, well, young boys, and they put him into court. They arrest him. They find a case of child porn on his computer. They always seize people's computers now, regardless. So it's looking bad. So they decided to go for a trawl. They decided to trawl for he's made some comment, well, I'm not the only one, or I can help you, blah, 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 if you go soft easy on me. So they look through all the teachers at the school, and they look through former pupils, and they find one guy. He's 30 years old, sitting in a prison cell, and he's been in and out of prison since he left school, and he's got maybe drug problems. They turn up to interview him. Very nice to him. They offer him a cigarette. You're not in any trouble. We're not interested in anything you might have done. We think you might have been a victim. Did you go to such and such a school when you were 7 or 8 years old? Anything funny happened to you? And they guide people through it. And let's another example. I mean, well, if you imagine you're 30 years old, say you made nothing of your life. You've been homeless. You're going to come out of prison with just a grant. These police turn up, and maybe they send you a social worker as well. You'll go. You go to court. You get days out. They maybe put you up at a hotel. If you only got 6 months left of your sentence to serve, they may trust you to let you out and put you up at a hotel, and you're entitled to compensation. Yeah. Well, I became a criminal because I had this child sexual abuse. I got it out of my mind. Yeah. And so on it goes. Let's take another example. This is a real example of sorts. A woman accuses her doctor, maybe he's 55, 60 years old, accused of touching her breast when he shouldn't have done. Maybe, if like my doctor, he's a very good doctor, but doesn't have a particularly good bedside manner, maybe he didn't explain why he was feeling her breast. So she goes to her doctor. She goes to police, accuses her doctor of indecently assaulting her. Maybe she embellishes a bit. Maybe she claims he said something about her being attractive, even though she isn't. So they arrest the doctor. They go through his files and they send letters to every woman patient he's had for the past 30 years. Now imagine what that might net. Imagine a woman who's been to this doctor 20 years ago. She can't remember exactly what, but she thinks it may have been because she was sick, and he looked at her chest, but maybe his hands wandered a bit. Memory plays tricks on you. This is without women deliberately making stuff up, and this has happened many times. They go trawling for victims and they find them. This is what happened in the Jimmy Savile scandal. They asked for people to come forward if they'd ever had an interaction with Savile. Literally hundreds did. Many of these allegations against Savile were refuted by chronology. So this is what can happen with trawls. Now, let me just give one more example of a valid trawl. What it could be a trawl. In 2002, 2 schoolgirls from the village of Soham went missing. Hollywell's and Jessica Chapman donned Manchester United shirts and literally walked off into the sunset. At least that's what we were led to believe. In fact, they were murdered by the school's caretaker, Ian Huntley. It's a very high-profile case. But there were... it started off as a missing child case. They actually brought in David Beckham, who was at that time he was playing for Manchester United. Actually brought in David Beckham, the footballer, to appeal for them to come back. And a lot of people phoned in. One person phoned in, a motorist, said, I don't know if it's he or she, but say he. So he was driving a car, and a car in front of him sped by. It had 2 girls, or maybe a girl and a boy in the back. We weren't sure. Seemed to be signalling frantically. I didn't think anything at the time, but it was 2 kids messing around. And another time, somebody else phoned in, thought it was a shallow grave. It turned out to be a badger set. So trawling does lead to genuine results, but it can also lead to miscarriages of justice. I'll give you an example of outrageous trawling. This is on the timeline. If you go to the entry for September 2015, Inside Time, you'll find some screen grabs there. 4 screen grabs from the newspaper Inside Time, which is a newspaper for prison inmates in the UK. This is an advertisement from Switalski's child child abuse solicitors. I'm not making this up. If you suffered physical, psychological, or sexual abuse as a child from someone who is in a position of trust, our specialist child abuse lawyers may be able to help you claim compensation and achieve justice. Members of our team have previously helped victims of abuse at the following places. And there's another one, Jordan's solicitors, helping victims plan for the future and achieve justice. Our specialist team are committed to helping victims of abuse and are experts in bringing actions against local authorities. Child abuse can be Our dedicated team of male and female lawyers have a proven track record with sexual, physical, and emotional abuse claims. Emotional abuse, which means what? Child abuse can take a long time to come to terms with, and it can be difficult for victims to speak out about their traumatic experiences. Regardless of how long ago the abuse took place, you may still be able to make a claim. I mean, it's inviting people to make. It's inviting serving prisoners who may not be the most honest of people, to put it mildly. It's inviting them to make false allegations. And you know, if you have a couple of thousand people read that advertisement, it isn't unlikely that a few of them will reply to it. And don't forget, you've got the NSPCC, you've got all sorts of organisations that length and breadth of the country, literally soliciting for victims. And you know, I mean, if it's an allegation which is in the past, the accused is on hiding to nothing, and the person, the accuser, has really got nothing to lose, unless she, or in many cases he, makes an absolutely outrageous mistake. Prosecutions for historical allegations of child sexual abuse, false allegations of child sexual abuse, are extremely rare. There's 2 or 3 in the database. There's one of a nurse, Natalie Mortimer, who falsely accused her own grandfather. But apart from that, there's one maybe 2 I can think of. One definitely, maybe another one. I'll just give you another example. This is from a corrupt firm of solicitors known as Lee Day. Which is also on the timeline. In Kenya was once, this is on the timeline, December 14th, 2006, but it goes back before that. Kenya was, up until 1960 something, I think was a British dependence, a British colony or whatever. And British soldiers were stationed there. They actually have a swig of something to drink. British soldiers were stationed there, and in the 50s there was something called the Mau Mau insurgency. Soldiers were brought in to suppress that. Very interesting book, a bloke named Frank Kitson, who was in charge of, or ended up in charge of that. And later on, he served in Northern Ireland. He examined some of the tactics they used to suppress the Mau Mau. But that's aside. But Lee Day went to Kenya, and they found, quote unquote, literally thousands of women, tribeswomen, who claimed to have been raped by by British soldiers. Some of them had half-caste babies. Obviously, if a tribeswoman is, you know, from dark East Africa, obviously there was some sort of illicit liaison went on there. And the Ministry of Defence was astounded at these, well, suspicious of these claims. And they sent a team out there, and they found 2,187 allegations baseless. And I mean, it was a 4-year investigation, and it included things like they forged entries in ledgers and things, and I remember reading one case of a woman. Which, a lot of these women, some of these women were prostitutes. Some had liaisons with Italian soldiers and claimed they'd been raped by British ones. Well, if they did, I mean, sign it. Maybe illiterate times, sign here, love, and you'll get your check, and we'll pocket the rest. So that is okay. That's the trawling by police and lawyers. Now let's look at media trawls. Some of those notorious media trawling in recent years was done by Gloria Allred, who's also a lawyer. Absolutely outrageous. Media trawls, you've got. I mean, you'll always get false allegation. Don't pay any attention to what these arseholes from Rape Crisis and similar organisations say. You always get false. You get false confessions, for God's sake. In some countries you get many. I believe in France they get a lot of false confessions to murders. There've been the John Benet case. John Benny Ramsey was actually murdered by her mother, Patsy Ramsey. The detective made out an overwhelming case for that. She's dead now. She died of cancer. But there have been false confessions to the John Benny Ramsey case. You get vulnerable people, attention seekers, and so on. That's people who are prepared to put their own necks in the noose, sometimes literally. I mean, when murder was capital in the Lindbergh baby case is famous. In the 1930s, there were 200 or so false confessions to that. The only person who didn't confess was a bloke who actually did it. So you'll get false confessions, and that's without women and on occasion men coming forward hoping to, this may not be sexual as such. It may be that somebody has a grudge against someone else. A woman or a man has a grudge against some particular individual, and once this guy's name is put in the frame, especially if he's famous, and how does he defend himself? Media trawls are a lot of this. This is called the bandwagon effect. It's a well-known psychological phenomenon. I didn't use the expression earlier, but you see where I'm going. Look it up anyway. It's called the bandwagon effect. People jump on the bandwagon, and the fact that with these trawls you have, because they go back months, years, or decades. There's a lot of the time there's no way of either corroborating or not corroborating them. Sometimes these false accusers can be exposed spectacularly. I'll give a couple of examples of that shortly. Look at that. Covered these before, but it won't hurt to do them again. Of late, they've been used in the United States for political purposes. Herman Cain, he's quite sort of famous as a Republican. He ran for president in 2012, and he had a chance of becoming America's second black president. But in October 2011, surprise, surprise, he was accused of sexual harassment by 2 former employees, and then another woman come forward, and he decided to back out. Recently, Paris Denard, who's a black Trump supporter, has been the subject of at least one allegation. I can't say for certain it's false, but if there's one type of person that the media hates, the American media hates more than conservatives and so-called white supremacists. It's black conservatives. So I don't know anything about the Palestine case, but I'm not expecting anything to come of it. So say that false accusers can be spectacularly exposed spectacularly. This happened, as I've said before, Operation U Tree. A woman who accused Rolf Harris of sexually assaulting her when she was 7 or 8 years old he wasn't there. He was actually convicted, but of that, he was convicted on all 12 counts. But that conviction was quashed, and rightly so, because it was clearly never there. But another woman who like that woman waved for anonymity, but a woman who falsely accused David Lee Travis, she said Travis had given her 40 years of hell, and the non-victim of Rolf Harris said almost the same thing. And what happened was, as I've covered this before, DLT opened a hospital radio station in I think September 1973, and she was the carnival queen there, the carnival princess or whatever. She came forward with this Operation U Tree, which claimed that DLT had sexually assaulted her, and somebody who was there had filmed it, contacted DLT's legal team. I believe the film was actually played in court, and this woman was asked at what point did Mr. Travis sneak off and grape you? And it's all bullshit, of course. They lie. Max Clifford was another victim of trawling and weaponisation. Unlike Rolf Harris, who I can't understand why anybody would have it in for Rolf Harris unless they hated his music or didn't like men with beards. It's bad news for me. But Max Clifford was somebody who, well, I would say people were out to get him, but certainly his conviction resulted, a lot of people were very happy at his conviction that he'd been taken down. He was a very smooth character, Max Clifford, the publicist. His daughter, actually, he's a very nice person, unlike him. Remained faithful to him. Right, that brings us to Gloria Allred. Now, Gloria Allred is best known for taking down Bill Cosby. To this day, it's believed that Cosby is a serial rapist who got away with it for decades, and he was just brought down by this courageous Andrea Constand. This woman, white woman, half his age, he was mentoring. Yeah, sure, privately. But I mean, even her own testimony there is very suspect. But what Allred did was she, in order to absolutely outrageous, in this country she'd never been, well, she would have been reported. She brought forward a slew of false accusers they kept on and on and on. And now this is one of his accusers. This is Linda Ridgway White Deer. I want you to listen to this and see how utterly absurd this is.
As I looked up, his penis was out of his pants, and he shoved it. into my mouth. His attack was fast, with surgical precision, and surprise was on his side.
Let's see if I can find the beginning of the beginning of one. That's the one where she starts. Might be the full. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. This Eden Turl and Linda Ridgway White. She does actually speak here. Let's just listen to what this mad cow says.
Possibly outside the door. I couldn't breathe.
But here we come.
Surgical precision and surprise was on his side.
That was Gloria speaking. If you don't recognise that hag's voice, this is Linda Ridgway White there.
I couldn't breathe. I was in shock. I thought of the boy possibly outside the door. When Cosby was done, there was a horrible mess of semen all over my face, my clothes, and in my hair. I took out a Kleenex to try and wipe off my face. I was bordering between vomiting and passing out. He was mumbling that I had been blessed with his semen, as if it was holy water. He gloated over my humiliation. He planned it. Even to this day, I am still ashamed that I went into shock. I wish I'd tried to kick him, but I felt like my heart had stopped. I couldn't catch my breath. He then said, "Come here."
That's another one. It's not a false accuser. I mean, basically, this woman claims she went to audition with Cosby. He shut her in a room with somebody outside, sat her down in a chair, unzipped his fly, whacked it in her mouth. No protesting, no biting, no screaming, no nothing. And after he's finished, he ejaculates in her mouth. She's got semen all over, wipes it off, and guides her to her car. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. And the most outrageous thing about that is that nobody in the room was laughing. No question, no meaningful questions. Not all the allegations against Cosby were that absurd, but absolutely ridiculous. And she went around appealing for these lying hags to come forward and accuse Cosby, and they did. And eventually, the one case, which was, as I made clear in my video, the prior bad acts of Gloria are all read. Certainly, there's a case for reasonable doubt there that Cosby. Well, Cosby told, like Rolf Harris. Excuse me. Like Rolf Harris, Cosby told the truth about the encounter instead of just lying about it. And because of his honesty, his career was trashed, and now he's in prison. Harris was sentenced to 5.5 years. Who's this? Oh yes. Now
I do.
Gloria Allred. She overstepped the mark with Roy Moore. Roy Moore was a judge. He had been a judge in. He was running for either the Senate or Congress. I can't remember which. In the Deep South, the American Deep South, and a rumor was started about him. Well, a rumor. Somebody accused him of sexual impropriety 39 years ago. And as is often the case, other accusers came forward. I saw one female security guard interviewed who claimed that he was known for hanging around the mall, etc. Whether or not she was simply lying or it was a genuinely false memory, I don't know. I suspect she was lying. Allred overstepped the mark with this, and I'm really astounded and annoyed in equal measure that she wasn't, that she and Beverly Nelson Young weren't haven't been indicted for some sort of offence, because the one thing lacking in these cases is physical evidence. Moore's legal team tore Nelson Young's claim to shreds. They visited, I think it was her or another one, but the specific allegations were made about a bar and a diner, and these are torn to shreds. What Nelson Young did was, and you'll find this on YouTube, she produced a yearbook which she claimed Moore signed when he was a district attorney. It was signed Roy Moore DA. Now, Moore wouldn't have signed DA. The signature was copied, and the DA actually stood for, not for district attorney, but for Delbert Adams, who was his assistant. And they produced this this yearbook, and eventually, under pressure, Nelson Young admitted that she'd well, listen to this.
We want to get to some brand new comments now from a Roy Moore accuser, Beverly Young Nelson. You've heard her name. She's the one who's accused Roy Moore of sexual assault. Well, today she admits altering the yearbook entry that she's been offering as proof of Moore's interest in her when she was merely a teenager. The yearbook note with the signature, Nelson says, is Moore's, reads, in cursive there, it reads, "To a sweeter, more beautiful girl, I could not say Merry Christmas. Christmas 1977. Love, Roy Moore, DA, District Attorney. The date 12/22/77. Location Old Hickory House." Now, Nelson now is coming forward and saying the date and the restaurant notes are hers, not Roy Moore's. Nelson's attorney, Gloria Allred, has insisted that from the beginning that the entire entry was written by Roy Moore. After this admission by Beverly Nelson today, Allred held this news conference stressing that her client stands by her story that Moore attacked Nelson when she was just 16 years of age. And Gloria Allred also said today, she announced that she had a handwriting expert look at the yearbook. Here they were.
The expert concluded that the signature and the handwritten notation above the signature on Exhibits 1 and 2 were prepared by Roy Moore. We are very happy to be able to announce this important expert opinion regarding Beverly's yearbook. We think it's important evidence that supports Beverly's statements that Roy Moore asked to sign her yearbook when she was just 16 years old. And it demonstrates that when Roy Moore stated, quote, "I do not know any of these women," end quote, that statement does not appear to be true.
Already simply lying there. The expert said no such thing. In fact, there was a technique shown by James Randi for forging signatures, for forging writing. You turn it upside down, and you'll find a video to that effect on on YouTube. But you'll find lots of videos like that. To test the veracity, I mean, you'd have to do proper forensic tests on the ink and such. So already simply lying. Allred's daughter, who's not nearly as old as her, Lisa Bloom, she has been one of the attorneys actually for the women who falsely accused Donald Trump. I hoped with the Brett Kavanagh case that the American public were beginning to wake up. As you may, again, you'll find the Kavanagh on the hearings, the confirmation hearings on YouTube. The way this guy was treated was absolutely disgraceful. What they did, they brought forward Christine Blasey Ford. I've discussed her here. I believe she's just simply lying. And Ali Alexander, an American vlogger, has done a very good analysis of her. If you just have a look and you'll find his video on YouTube. That he's given very cogent reasons for believing she was lying. She made it up. The fact that she wasn't able to identify the house where this alleged attempted rape nearly took place. But what they did, what the odious Dianne Feinstein did, was they had Blasey Ford wrote to her months previously, and they delayed it till the last moment in order to scupper the hearing. And of course, you know, if you're asked, if you're given questions, if you're asked, if you're confronted with so-called evidence and asked to refute it there and then, I mean, and it's something that happened years ago. I mean, you know, I mean, you have to dig into your files, your diary, whatever. So they left that to the last moment. They delayed it. They gave massive publicity, and they hoped others would come forward. And 3 others did come forward. You had a woman named Julie Swetnick, who was absolutely outrageous. She approached the Michael Avenatti, the so-called creepy porn lawyer, the rightly styled creepy porn lawyer, Michael Avenatti. She fed him a load of rubbish, which he may or may not have believed. She's now thoroughly discredited, and hopefully she'll face prosecution. There was a bloke who claimed to have seen Moore raping a woman. I think it was on a boat, but he withdrew. And then there was another woman who wrote a letter, and it turned out she was, I think she's in her 70s, and she admitted that she'd made that up. So that was used weaponization to stop a judge being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. And almost all these people have been sort of right wing. Bill Cosby's right wing, but now with the Harvey Weinstein case, which may not be all smoke and mirrors, it may be a bit of a case against Weinstein, probably for indecent assault and groping rather than for actual rape. Weinstein was a male feminist who appears to be regretting it. The latest subjects of this sort of nonsense are the astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson and the actor Kevin Spacey. Tyson appears to have been targeted just because, you know, he's a I think I don't know if he's right wing or something, but he's an atheist. Doesn't strike me as being any sort of social justice warrior. And he had I think one allegation from that he drugged and raped some woman years ago, and then others have come forward. The drugging and raping, I'll have to do a program on this, a dedicated program, but women have been, since the 1970s, and certainly from the 1980s, women have been brainwashed. Young college women have been, in America, been brainwashed into believing they've been raped anytime they've had a few drinks, and they've gone with a bloke who's perhaps not the most sensitive of lovers. And you know, like hookup culture. You had it in the UK as well. I remember speaking to a student in sharing a house with me. I lived in a house which was mainly students at one point in Leeds. This guy told me he slept with about a dozen women at university. I don't know if he's telling me the truth or not. He was still at university, or he'd recently left. Well, I still haven't clocked up a dozen, and it's something in retrospect. It isn't something I regret, because you know, nowadays you've got AIDS and everything, and it's very easy for men to be falsely accused. But so hookup culture is real, and women have been. I mean, it may have been that this woman had a few drinks, and you know, if you have, I mean, women have less capacity for alcohol than men, and you know, it can to drink heavily, it can play havoc with your memory. Maybe the next day, maybe weeks or months later. And if she looked back years ago, she may genuinely think she was drugged and raped, but drug facilitated rape is very, very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare. Actually, I must mention there's a really case, a wonderful case from Canada. I just added this to recently added this to the timeline because it is a recent case. It's on the timeline at August 3rd, 4th, 2016. The report by Christine Blasey Ford from Canada. This is show you how stupid some of these women are. In the beginning, at least, the 28-year-old complainant told Toronto police she wanted to hear what the man had to say, wanted to understand what happened. She had, by her own account, about 10 drinks, done 4 or 5 lines of cocaine, and voluntarily taken GHB, a party drug she knew was a date rape drug. Though she was a witness honest to a fault, understandably her memory was incomplete. What there was of it was suspect even to her. She wasn't sure, she told police, if the sexual encounter was a dream, or if it actually happened. They still charged this for them. I mean, seriously. I mean, men are being dragged into court for cases. And this guy, as she said, he's 44 and is or was working in finance. His reputation is trashed now. I think he's lost his job. But she's had 10 drinks, done cocaine, and taken GHB. I mean, that, you shouldn't worry that doing that can cause you to lose your memory or to be the victim of date rape. You should worry that can kill you or do brain damage. And it's absolutely absurd. So I think it's very likely that Neil deGrasse Tyson, if he did have sex with this woman, she's looking back and filling in a lot of blanks that are being put there. And maybe she's looking to trash his career or looking for sympathy for living a worthless life or whatever. I don't believe a word of it. Which brings us finally to Kevin Spacey. Now, Spacey's a homosexual. I've got no great sympathy for homosexuals. As long as they leave their sexuality at home, I don't mind them. But Spacey, as you some of you may know, with this Me Too, somebody accused Spacey, said that I think back in the 1980s when he was 14, that Spacey came onto him at a party and tried to do something. Said that Spacey was drunk at the time. Extremely foolishly, Spacey said he had no recollection of it, apologised if it did happen, but then he went on to say, I'm living life as a gay man, yada, yada, yada. And of course that torpedoed him with a homosexual lobby as well, and loads of accusers crawled out the woodwork. Now, if he couldn't remember this incident, he could, in all honesty, have denied it, because, I mean, if a man or woman walks up to you in the street and says hello, Al, or whatever your name is, do you remember I knew you back in what 20 years ago? You could say, honestly, I don't know you, or I don't remember you. Or you could say, we never met, as far as I recall. He could have said something like that, but instead, he made this ludicrous claim, and men have come forward and accused him of doing things, and now he's found himself in court. That's, to me, that allegation. My Australian correspondent sent me details of that, and I looked at it. I agree with. I think I'd agree with him anyway, without seeing that Spacey has been targeted by this, not this guy, but by this guy's mother, who's or used to be a reporter and is looking for 15 minutes of fame, or in her own right, or vicarious fame in reflecting on her son's glory. But what the details that have come out show, indicate that this guy told, he was working at a bar, he got pally with Spacey, he started chatting him up, as it were. Normally, if a younger person approaches an older actor or celebrity, maybe get an autograph. But I would suggest normally a celebrity would say, "Nice to meet you," shake hands, and that would be the end of it. But Spacey has been the subject of some ostracism, and he's probably feeling a little lonely, probably glad of the company. And Spacey bought him a number of drinks, which he was encouraged to do, and then he was meant to have been put his hand where it wasn't wanted. It turned out this guy was 18, which is it? I don't know, but 18 rather than 26, but 18 is what? If you give a homo the come on and he comes on to you, if a woman gives a man the come on and he tries to kiss her or touch her hand, or, well, not a breast, he does a little bit forward, but you got to touch the woman at some point, and it's part of affirmative consent laws. May I touch you? May I hold your hand? No, real people don't work like that. The real world doesn't operate like that. So it's my view, my Australian correspondent's view, and I know that many people think that Spacey has been the victim of. I'd like to see him acquitted here, because it's outrageous what is happening. Anyway, that covers trawling and weaponisation. If you look around, you'll see. I'm surprised that more people haven't woken up, because the Kavanagh hearing was absolutely outrageous. The poor bloke was nearly in tears at one point. And but having said that, as one of my correspondents said that, I think a couple of them said that they may have gone a bit too far, because, as with the witch hunts, Salem and the like, when these head cases and these provocateurs and whatever, when they start attacking people in authority, that's when the authorities clamp down on it. Trump just brushed off these false accusers like the alpha male he is, but Kavanagh is no alpha male. But it was absolutely right. I've felt really sorry for the guy, and I think a lot of people did. Lindsey Graham was absolutely spectacular, and Susan Collins, that Congresswoman, was she a senator? She's a senator, I think. She came in for a lot of flack there, but she voted with her head rather than with her vagina or with her gut. So anyway, that's trawling weaponisation. I'll put this online. I'll put it by. I'll make the video private, but I'll add it in a day or two, and eventually I'll put it on the internet archive. Next live hangout will probably be in a couple of weeks. I'll probably be tackling the grand conspiracy. Or I might do sex trafficking. Probably the grand conspiracy, or I might sex trafficking might become part of that. But I'll be covering. I think you'll like that. We'll be covering sort of politics and the way conspiracy theories and conspiracies really imagine operate, and how many of the people promoting this nonsense are really 3 sandwiches short of a picnic. So thank you for coming. There's one person left now. 1 out of 2. It's getting really bad, isn't it? Oh, Valhalla Gaming. Hello. Hello, Valhalla. Did I know what guy? Do I know what guy? If you're still there, if it's you still there, drop me an email if you've gone and you hear this. Drop me. Oh, I can go. I don't know if I can contact you. Oh, hi. What guy who was accused? Which one? The YouTube have made it. I've still got 200. I've got 225. I've got 225 subscribers now. I think it was up to 226. It's gone down to 225 again. Let's have a look. 225. Oh, 225. Lost another one. But still, I mean, and I've got 2 people turned up. I don't know what guy. I don't know what guy you're alluding to here. Guy who was accused. Oh, sorry. Oh God, I've spoken to a few. I've spoken to Alexander Akinomu, who was accused by. I've actually spoken to him on the phone falsely accused by Eleanor de Freitas. What guy was wrongly accused? I'll be talking here about weaponisation, which is mostly to do at the moment celebrities and no, don't be sorry, that's fine. If you go back over it, you'll see. But I don't think I've met anybody I've been talking about tonight. Who did I mention? I mentioned. I was speaking hypothetically about sort of trawling. No, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's Neil deGrasse Tyson is a famous astronomer, celebrity astronomer. Speaking when I put the video online, you'll see. No, fine. No, I'm glad somebody finds my stories hookable. Is that the word? I'll put it online, and if you or anyone else has any questions, I'm always prepared to take questions. I had a guy from Sweden actually earlier this week asked me about Shauna Newell on the as a faux sex trafficking victim on the timeline. So I think next probably 2 weeks I'll do a presentation on a discussion about the grand conspiracy. I think you'll like that. We cover all these lunatics. A lot of it is to do with social media because I'm in London. You'll find you'll find a link on my webpage, but Infotext manuscripts and international full slope timeline. That's my hangout. It's a lot of it's to do with social media. I mean, you did have this sort of thing before social media, before the internet, but obviously now everybody. I mean, you've got 1 billion people on YouTube alone. Now think about this: are they all those people sane? Nice one, thank you. Well, wherever you are, good luck to your flag as well. Val, I would assume that from your name that you're probably from Scandinavia somewhere. Oh, Finland. Hello. Yes. I don't think I've had many correspondents from Finland. 1 or 2 from Sweden and Norway. But I mean, I've been on. My website has been online since April 2000. So I've got quite a bit of presence. social media has made it a lot worse, and it did happen before social media, but now, so you've got 1 billion people online. So imagine if only a tiny percentage of those people are well, I wouldn't say clowns. I mean, I did actually have the only I've been in my current address 32 years, and the only overnight guest I've ever had was a guy from Sweden. He was I was writing songs at the time. We had a correspondence. This was before the internet. He sent me his record. He recorded a record. And he turned up on my doorstep, and he was looking for a job in London. In London, and I pretty much he slipped up to my floor overnight. And the next day, he got a job just like that. So he had a degree in social work. So I haven't heard from him since. But it's the only person, apart from me, the only person who's ever slept here overnight. Even my well, best not to mention her, cunt. But no, yeah, Swedes are great. Yeah, so are Finns as well. Even those owned by dolphins. No. Do I look homeless? No, I keep the screen dark for a reason. No, I've been living in my current address for 32 years, so I'm definitely not homeless. Oh, thanks a lot. I was rather thinking it's the beard. He said no, it's a beard. I usually grow my hair in the winter, but it hasn't grown so much. And I shave it off in the summer, but I've got a nasty idea. If I shave it off, it won't grow back. No, I quite like the beard actually. No, I'm not turning lights on. I'm sorry, I can't do that. You'll find videos of me on my various places on the internet with me looking less with thank you with just a moustache. I've had a moustache since certainly since the beginning of 1997, and I started growing it permanently in November 1996. You'll find videos of me on my carry on. You'll find videos of me on online looking I won't say immaculate. I tend to dress down rather than up. Like now, Willie Dixon said he was built for comfort. I dress for comfort. He was built for comfort, not for speed. I dress for comfort, not for style. And I like hoods. Well, I mean, it's a hooded shirt actually. I like shirts with lots of pockets and trousers with lots of pockets. Yeah, you can ask me a question. I'm going soon, but yeah, if you can send me an email anyway. No, you got so many people online now, and I mean, this country alone, the police, the emergency services take thousands of hoax calls every year. People phone the police for ludicrous reasons, like where can you tell me where's the local? Oh yes, I'm definitely pro Brexit. Yes, definitely. Well, Dick Morris has done a very good presentation on. I don't know if he was talking about Trump or about Hillary Clinton, but he said that I think it was a speech about how Trump can beat Hillary. He was talking about the way people see the world. I mean, the world isn't politics is the left and right. Ordinary people, he said, see the world as you've got a small clique of people at the centre of control absolutely unspeakable wealth. You've got around them, you've got a circle who live off them as symbiotes if they're good people, as parasites if they're not. This includes lawyers, journalists, academics, politicians, and then you've got the rest of us. And what's been happening? What's been happening, and you see this, is that the people who control the world try to move decisions away from the local base into the upper sphere. So, I mean, the whole thing about Brexit is that the European Union is part of the plot going back to at least the 1920s to federate the world, to control the world, a world government. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the phrase "New World Order" is now in our lexicons. But anyway, that's another discussion. You'll find my discussion there. Check out my book "Freedom Under Socialism," which was published in 1996, and various things on my main website. Anyway, thank you for coming. 3 people now. For the late arrival, this video will be. I'll make it private, but 2 or 3 days from now, I'll make it public, and eventually it will be. Well, you can look Valhalla Game. You can send me a question by email, or through my YouTube account. Okay, you can ask me more than one question. So thank you for coming. This will be on YouTube in 3 or 4 days, and eventually on the Internet Archive. So thank you all, and next time you come, please invite some of your friends. Okay.